mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life. We won't live in the past. We're making it alive.
How can being an effective leader positively impact our relationships? Welcome to Making It Last podcast, which is all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. And to unpack that this time around is Conroy Thompson. He is an author and he's a learning and development trainer. Welcome, Conroy.
You so much. Could I say professor?
No, 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 not there. Close, but not there. Not there. All right, so let's unpack this.
Absolutely.
Let's break it up basically and then just put it together. When you think of somebody being an effective leader, what does that mean for you?
Huh. All right. Over the year, okay, can I take you on a little journey? I'm
That's
going to kind of
fine.
intertwine my own personal leadership journey as well and show you how it evolved for me as I learned along the way.
Okay.
All right. So when I just started out in the hospitality industry years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I remember encountering the first sign of leadership.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it did not go the way that I thought it would have gone. So I was one of those individuals who, from ever since, I always try to find a solution to a challenge. And
Okay.
this particular property that I was working at, I was a trainee there because it was my
Mm-hmm.
first job, but I learned so quickly. Uh, there was a delayed flight. It was a canceled flight, and we only saw this huge bus
Mm-hmm.
driving up to the lobby,
Mm-hmm.
and we were told, "Oh, these persons were at the airport in Montego Bay, but their flight was canceled, and they're going to be staying here for tonight."
Mm-hmm.
Now, looking back, I wondered if somebody else got that information prior to them coming to the front desk, because I was at
Mm-hmm.
the front desk. But that information was never passed on to us.
Okay.
And we had to make do.
Mm-hmm.
It was to show you how long it was. We never had computers at the front desk or anything like that. So everything was done manually.
Mm-hmm.
So it was for them, it was easy for us to just write up a card and say, hey, you're in room 115 or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to also look at the inventory side of things. What if I'm writing up to say that Noreen Daly is going in 115, but then somebody else is over there writing up to say that Conroy Thompson is going into 115, not having a system
Right.
or
Mm-hmm.
anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, long and short of the story, there was this elderly couple that was sitting in the lobby for quite a while. And I went over and introduced myself to the couple. And obviously, persons came in, they were frustrated, they started. We had nothing to do with the canceled flight, but clients, they don't business with that. They're coming
Mm-hmm.
in with, they're going home, they're on
Right.
their way
Right.
home. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of them have work to go to. And so all of these different issues were being offloaded on us.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling my colleagues at the front desk, give me around 20 minutes. I'm going to run to check on this particular room that the elderly couple is supposed to go into. When I went there, housekeeping was in the room. And I told them I'm here to help because they're in the lobby for a while,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we long and short, help them, move them into the room. I physically took them there and everything, and they're settled. The couple came back to the front desk later on that evening, and they asked me, are you planning to become a general manager one day? Not knowing that my general manager was just in earshot. And the couple said to me, you are the only one from the hotel to even come over and said anything to us. You greeted us,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. Anyway, I tell them thanks and whatever it is. I only got a tap on my shoulder. Conroy, I need to see you in my office. When I went in the office, this was the statement that greeted a trainee who thought that he was doing the very best
Mm-hmm.
to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You think I'm gonna make no little boy come and take me work? And I remember going home and
Wow.
saying to my grandmother,
Wow.
I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna tell you, if that was my only
Mm-hmm.
encounter with leadership in that way throughout my career, then it would have been great. But no, it came in other types of negativity when I have zero interest. Listen, I have zero interest in certain type of work.
Mm-hmm.
But because the natural ability that I have to help and to
Mm-hmm.
find solutions, there were multiple leaders in my throughout my career who
Mm-hmm.
thought I wanted their job, and they made it very clear to me that you're not here to take my job.
Ouch.
And that colored my leadership experience,
Mm-hmm.
in my formative year in the industry. It was not until I went back to school at the Grand Ole NCU and learned about leadership in management studies. And I'm like, but I don't understand. This it's like night and day. I'm like, but this is not what I'm seeing anywhere. Because it's as if it's like a cutthroat type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a vow in my I will never forget this class. It was organizational behavior. Sonia Clark Bowen, my lecturer and mentor at the time,
Mm-hmm.
um, who taught that course, and it opened my eyes to true leadership.
Yeah.
And I made a vow that day. I'm like, if ever I become a leader, the examples that I had in the past
Mm-hmm.
of how leadership should be, I will never want to be that type of leader. Because a true and effective leader, and I'm going to get into it now, a true
Mm-hmm.
and effective leader, to be a leader, you have to learn to serve. That's the very first thing. Because you're talking about an organization. An organization is a living, breathing thing with different body parts. So, yes, I'm general manager, or yes, I'm operations manager, yes, I'm sales manager, yes, whatever sphere of leadership you
Mm-hmm.
take
You're
on,
on. Yeah.
HR manager, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you have to first and foremost understand that in order, especially these days, with the multi-generation in the same
Mm-hmm.
organization where you
Yes.
have to
Mm-hmm.
flex,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's a term, gen flex, because the same type of way that you dealt with the same way that you deal with Conroy is not the same way that you're going to deal with Noreen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you're saying that you're going to babysit anybody. And I've
Right.
heard,
Right.
when I do these leadership trainings,
Mm-hmm.
that one
Mm-hmm.
sentence always, but I'm not here to babysit anybody. I have to kindly say, I understand that. But also understand that you have your own, you have a goal
Mm-hmm.
as a person first in that organization. Your division have a goal. Your entire
Mm-hmm.
organization have a goal as well. So you have to know how you are going to achieve your goal, to achieve your division goal, to achieve your organization's goal,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And sometimes it takes you paying a little more attention,
Yup.
not to your title, but to the people. So you first need to understand your people and understand you as an individual as well. Because guess what? We don't know everything. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the challenges, especially
Mm-hmm.
with leaders that I've seen, they know it all. So there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing nobody else can say to them and do. I lecture
Mm-hmm.
this course um customer service, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was doing that, I'm one who I love going in the field, get my real life experiences in
Mm-hmm.
my classroom, because that's how I teach. And I remember I went to this business, this large supermarket chain in Jamaica. And I said, you know what, I'm going to kind of camp out here for a couple of hours because I noticed there were some um, merchandisers, on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff. I said, let
Mm-hmm.
me see how they operate. It so happened that the day that I decided to do that, um, there was an encounter between uh, merchandiser, the merchandiser supervisor, and the owner of this particular brand.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, the merchandiser who is on the floor every day with these
Mm-hmm.
products and also seeing how customers interface with other products would overhear the customer taking up that particular product, putting it back on the shelf, and to certain things. The
Right.
merchandiser is hearing these feedback. The merchandiser said that she told the supervisor the feedback that the customers are saying and stuff. And the supervisor's response to the merchandiser was like, no, no, you're just a merchandiser. I'm in charge. Just allow me to do my thing, type of
Wow.
thing, right?
Hmm.
And it so happened that that particular day that I'm there, the owner of the brand was there, showed up, and was walking in his area where his products are,
Mm-hmm.
and overheard a customer, multiple customers, making certain remarks about his brand compared to other brands. He did not go to the supervisor because the merchandiser was also close by. And he asked the merchandiser, what, what have you been hearing? And the merchandiser, being very forthright, said, sir, and because this is what I've been hearing, and this is what I was saying to, and
Mm-hmm.
this, I don't know anything, so, sir, whatever. Thus, the manager left and asked, really? And he went to the supervisor, called the supervisor, and he had to remind the supervisor, the persons who are on the ground, who interface with our clients, our customers, our end users, there's there's more to marketing than just whatever study you
Mm-hmm.
want to have.
Yep.
You have to also have your people involved
Yeah.
because they are the ones who have first-hand knowledge
Mm-hmm.
of how the product work, how the product don't work, what the customer's vices are with the product, whatever it is. So allow for them to be able to provide feedback because you don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Needless to say, that was the supervisor's last day there. But anyway, I say
Mm-hmm.
all of that to
Mm-hmm.
say this. When you open yourself up as a leader
Mm-hmm.
to understand that there is something that I can learn from even my entry level employee,
Mm-hmm.
you are well on your way because you're not only learning, but you're also creating an environment for them to share.
True.
And I've always said this, the moment you start telling an employee, don't we don't want to hear anything from you, whatever. That's the moment you are now cutting off creativity. You're
Mm-hmm.
cutting off innovation as well.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? Even if they have the answer to a challenge that you're having as a company, you will never ever hear it
Hear it.
again because guess what? You would have closed that pipe, that tap, because now you're saying to them, shut up. So understanding the people who you work with, understanding
Mm-hmm.
yourself, the emotional intelligence, which is another thing
Altogether. Mm-hmm.
altogether,
Mm-hmm.
must be there because you also need to also understand I used to be somebody who was very emotionally charged when I see injustices.
Mhm.
And I used to just fly off the top. I'm like, this can't happen, how this happen, whatever. And I would attack and not taking time to process.
Mhm.
And it hurt me over the years, like in my formative years, again, because that was the example
That you,
that I
yeah.
had in leadership and just attack, attack, attack. But understanding how to manage the emotions,
Mhm.
even in
That's key.
high level, high stress
Stress.
environment,
Mhm.
especially when the numbers are not looking good, right? You are not, um, things are happening because in business, it's just so dynamic that anything can throw it off. But you have to, as the captain of that ship,
Ship.
have to have a level head. And if your people see you floundering and going all over the
Mhm.
place, guess what? They're going to do the same. And leaders must lead by example.
Example. Mm.
Because believe it or not, it is such an influential thing.
Yeah.
If you ask anybody who would have done 20, 30 years in their career,
Mhm.
if there's anybody that may have an impact on you, maybe they will say maybe three type of people. They may say a teacher, they may say maybe their pastor or whoever, but they will always also talk about at least one leader, whether negatively or positively,
Positively. That's so true. That
right?
is true.
And I've always said, let me as a leader not be the person to negatively impact
Mhm.
somebody because that impact is going to follow on because it may just change the trajectory of their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
And things that they would have been trying to do positively, I would have now cast that shadow over it, and it just change how they look at life, how they parent, whatever it is. Because
Mm.
everything that we do, it has that generational effect.
You can't live your best life without a healthy immune system. Boost your immune system the delicious way with Zappy's organic juices and punches. Made from local produce with zero added sugar, our juices cleanse and revitalize your body as they boost your natural immunity. Try our delicious flavors. Beat It, Berry Bomb, Get Fresh, Ton Up, and Island Splash. Find us on Instagram at Zappy's Organics or call or send a WhatsApp message at 1-876-779-8910 to order today. That's 1-876-779-8910. Zappy's Organic Juices and Punches. Live your best life today.
Does your business lack branding? Having difficulty realizing your vision? Look no further. Splinth Brand Design Consultancy specializes in developing personal and business brands. Services include strategic management, website creation, social media branding, and more. Visit them online at www.wearesplint.com. Splinth, the brand you need to succeed.
You've basically said it, but I want you to just reinforce it. How can we
Yes.
basically stop that cycle though? Because I think a lot of times people don't recognize that what you say in a space can have such far-reaching
Mm,
implications, whether
mm.
not just professionally, but I know you even mentioned, even you can allude to even in terms of how they parent. How can those of us who are in these different spaces recognize that power that we have?
All right. How I do leadership comes from the word of God. I'm going to put that out there plain
Okay.
because I also know that let it never be said that Conroy, I sent somebody your way
Mm-hmm.
as a leader to guide that person, to, to speak life into that person,
Mm-hmm.
to show that person love. Because I'm going to tell you, a lot of people are coming from homes that don't have that. And I don't want
Mm-hmm.
God to tell me when I stand before Him. Remember, I said Noreen to you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I remember how you treated Noreen. What you did not know, Conor, is that when Noreen left your presence that day after you treated her that way,
Mm-hmm.
she decided that, you know what? I don't ever want to work here again. And her leaving that job would have caused such an effect on her family.
Mm-hmm.
She could not earn for 5 months, 6 months. And the fact that she did not earn for 5 or 6 months, it caused her daughter to now look elsewhere to find money. Let us, I think about life
Mm-hmm.
on that grand, that bigger picture. Because at the heart of leadership is the heart, is your heart. How do you want? And listen, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that I can get very passionate about this subject because,
Mm-hmm.
again, if I never had a grandmother who, bless her heart, would have said to me every time I come home and tell her, you know, and I'm like, but grandma, I'm just trying to, they hire me to do something, and I'm, why?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, always understand that everybody's not on the same path that you're on. The mindset of people are different, but you're going, you, and she used to say this little thing, and back then I used to be like, why? She was like, and you are not going to behave any way differently towards them.
Yeah.
You are going to show respect. And I
Be
used
the
to be like, but
professional.
grandma, and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
just trust me with this. And I've lived to see that same first manager when I won. It was a Tourism Service Excellence Award when I won that award in 2018 or 19. The national champion for Jamaica for tourism was at that event that night. And that was the first time we're seeing each other since that, how many years ago. And I remember when they saw me first, it was like, you could tell when they're like, should I approach? Should I not approach? And I went over, I smiled, shook their hand, and said, how are you? It's been a while, whatever it is. Because I also know that there is, as human beings, we don't know it too often that people do remember.
Yeah.
You understand? And they
Mm-hmm.
may think that you're going to treat them some way.
Because
And again, back
mm-hmm.
to the leadership, people remember. And I have to have that in my head. People remember. So let it not be said then, Conroy, that you
Mm-hmm.
had the opportunity to lead this person down a path to make them better, and you made them worse. Leave them better. And of course, we're people. So we also are dealing with our own issues
Yeah.
as well. But as a leader, we have superpowers. we should have superpowers. We should have superpowers, meaning as a leader, you must recognize when you're not well.
Yep. Yep.
So you recognize that you're not well, you deal with that because you also have people under your care. They shouldn't be the ones to suffer
Because
because of your suffering, right? And that's why, when you look back on life and you listen to to stories all over, you listen to these different stories and these testimonials. Well, it was because of Miss Daly that I did whatever. You feel good about it. But you don't want to hear, and I am not
mm-hmm,
saying that you won't have those employees who don't need a little rough up, because
mm-hmm,
they do, but do it in love.
mm-hmm,
Correct them in love. Show them the behavior and let them know that it's not about them. You were hired to do XYZ. You're
mm-hmm,
coming to work late constantly. You know how that affects us here? Show them. If they can't abide by the rule, then this is not where
yeah,
you're supposed to be.
yeah. It's not the
I
space.
mean, I remember
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was working at this one particular hotel in HR, and this particular HR director, we used to laugh when she's firing somebody. We used to laugh the way when the persons are leaving her office, how they're smiling. Okay, Mrs. XYZ, we'll keep in touch or whatever it is. And when they ask me, I'm like, how do you do it? Because normally, when somebody's getting fired, she's like, Conroy, they're people. And I have to also help them to understand where they went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They will cry in this office before you see them come out. But they, at the end of every single dismissal, they understood where they went wrong and why we cannot continue. Because you don't just fire them because of that one infraction. It would
It's
have
over
been
time.
multiple things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except if it's like a fight or stealing,
Mm-hmm.
those are like dismissal or whatever. And she said I had to show them and help them to understand, but also help them to know, as you go on your journey,
Mm-hmm.
right? Learn from this. Learn from this. Reach out if you need, because I want you to grow. And I'm like, I never looked
Yeah.
at it
Yeah.
like that. And I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's how, can you take bits and pieces of the people who, would have
You interact
influenced
with.
life
Yep.
over a period of time. And for me, that's really how you preserve those relationships. Because I've seen HR directors, managers walking in the town and getting hit by people who they used to work with.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that happen, right? Because again, of maybe how they treated the individual. Remember, you have a life outside of your workplace.
Yeah, a lot of people don't remember that, painfully so. As
Yeah,
we're wrapping up,
yeah.
if all of what you said, people are still grappling and saying, it's a lot to process, what's the one main idea you'd want them to get from this conversation in terms of just how being an effective leader can or should positively
Mhm.
impact their
The
relationships?
relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The number one thing that I would want, especially new and emerging leaders,
Okay.
even if you've been a leader for, because again, we are always here to learn, um, is to ensure that you learn to lead yourself first.
Ah, okay.
Learn to lead yourself first. And it can be very difficult because there are days that you want to do, you know that you should have the discipline to do X, but you don't want to do it. Learn to lead yourself first. Because in doing that, then everything else comes from there. The example comes from there. How you treat others comes from there. You understand what I mean? How you open up your mind to receiving feedback. All of that comes from there. So
Mm.
learn to lead yourself first because you need to have a relationship with you. before you can effectively have a relationship with anybody else. And that's another story for another day.
Excellent note to end on. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Conroy.
It's been a pleasure. It was a long time coming. I know that this was not how we wanted to, but guess what? We have to make it work. But I still promise you an in-person because I love the in-person more too. So
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. This was Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life. We won't live in the past. We're making it last.